Is this an adventure or what? We don't need unexplained phenomena. I hope you guys are enjoying this journey we're taking you on. I know you come expecting to hear about big cats, cryptids, UFOs. We will touch on some of that, but I think it's worth sharing some of this with you, don't you? There's only 2 living souls up here today.
Because I can see it in my mind, I can see it in my head what I saw, but I can't describe.
Our eyes was closed, like a brightish light in my face, and I just felt paralysed.
Someone said there's something out there, so we had a look. It looked like a walnut. That's the only way I can describe it.
It was like it had loads of tiny little windows all over it, and it had lights in those windows, but not a light that illuminates.
Anyway, we were ushered into this lounge. This fella came in, he said, whatever you saw was a weather effect.
And everything is deathly silent. There's no sea, there's no wind, there's no night noise, because, you know, there's foxes all over here. There's nothing.
Hello everybody, welcome to Sunday's live stream, and there's something. So I hope you've all had a good weekend, and hope you're going to enjoy it next hour, 2 hours, and let's see how it goes. I'm really looking forward to tonight because I'm talking to somebody who first got in touch with me probably 8 or 9 years ago, and we've spoken on and off ever since, and absolutely great guy. And you know, you get people on here who are sort of really high profile and what have you, which is great, absolutely great. But you get people on here who are really interesting, and I know this fella is, so I'm really looking forward to it. But before we do that, let's just have a look who's in chat, because we've got 160, 170 people here already. Galba, Searching Girl, Robert John, Dragonborn Rising, Magsu, Roddy Burns, Pointer. Let's have a look. Jackish, Tam, I think Linny will be in, Mrs. Linny, Mia Girl, Jan and Andrew. Thanks, Jan and Andrew. Very much appreciated. Sussex, I can't even pronounce it, but you know who you are. Henry Dale and Martin Tierney. Al Durham, good to see you, Al. We'll have to have a catch up soon, mate. I hope so. Anyway, Obsidian, Linda, yeah, all good. So, and Zen, good to see you, mate. And we'll do a little bit of a name catch up a little bit further in. But some of the, I'll get our guest on in a moment. But some of the things that you're going to hear, I've actually talked about over years. At least one of the stories, probably 3 or 4 times, and everybody's pretty much blown away by it. But I don't think there's anything better than listening to something from horse's mouth, so to speak. I can't do it justice the way that the actual witness can. So I think it's going to be a really interesting night. And your questions, please, capital letters. And I'm not going to scroll down, because if I do, I'll not know where I've started. So I stop and I just work my way down them nice and steady. So if we get to end and you haven't had your question, it's not been done deliberate. Okay, 1 second. I can just see my guest just moved. So yeah, there we go. So we'll bring on Mike. How are you doing, Mike? You all right?
Yeah, good evening, Paul.
No, brilliant. And so pleased that you've decided to come and share a few of your life experiences with us today, mate. Really, really grateful. Yeah, take us back a little bit to the beginning, Mike. Early days.
Oh, early days. I was born in Middlesbrough, and as far back as I can remember, I've had what they call paranormal and unexplained experiences.
Yeah.
First one started when I was there was a man, and he used to come and go into the kitchen. It was as if he was a real man to me as a child. And I used to point at him. I was non-verbal at the time. And my mum's going, "Whoa, what?" And I'm trying to say man, but he was doing all sorts of things. And one day he picked me up, put me onto the back garden wall, because we had a yard where Middlesbrough bus station is now. There was that old houses there, and they used to have yards. He put me on a 6-foot wall, and I fell off and broke my arm and ended up in the hospital. No one could work out how I got up on the 6-foot wall, of course.
Yeah.
And then later he used to come and ask me for things like get on the bike, and he pushed me down the stairs, and I on a tricycle. I ended up again in the hospital with lumps and bumps all over my head. And my mum at the time and her mum's partner went to the local church and got a load of rosary beads and had them pressed and put them around the cot. And when they heard all this noise up there, when they come in, they was all scattered everywhere, and they were super strong. Not saying I'd be able to break and do what they'd been done. And that sort of ended in, I was about 4, just before I moved to London. I was at my nan's house, sleeping in bed, and I heard a voice calling me, Michael, Michael. And I got up out of bed and went out the bedroom door because I could hear the voice calling me. And he's at the bottom of the stairs and he's going, jump, jump, and I'll catch you, like that. So, of course, me being me, I went to jump. But my nan caught the back of my pyjamas and then went off in him, at him. And, he just appeared.
How do you work that one out, Michael? It's not a trick question either, because you've told me that about jumping downstairs, been attempting to jump off stairs before, and it's fascinating. But how do you work out there's a physical to this man and they couldn't see him?
As far as I can understand, from my own perspective, as a kid, I was so open about it. I used to get ridiculed a lot.
Yeah.
Because I used to speak about it. My mum used to say, shh, don't speak about that stuff, you know. And it made me feel a bit, you know, worried about speaking it eventually. But I used to speak about these things and the experiences I had. And my mum would put it down to imagination. My nan, on the other hand, she was a documented clairvoyant.
Yeah.
And she understood. So every time I used to walk in my nan's house, there'd been a murder on the site where my mum's house, my nan's house was, of a young girl. And every time I walked across the front room, what was called the best room, I used to see her laying on the floor, laying in the floor.
Yeah, yeah.
I used to run across that room. I was
I
scared.
bet you did. And this has kind of followed you now throughout your life. Do you think then, Michael, because of some of the things you're going to talk about, do you think that you are attracting other types of unexplained phenomena?
I think they're all the same phenomena. I don't
Right.
separate them out as in categorize and put them into boxes. I think that all these phenomena that we're seeing, that's down to maybe your perception and how you perceive things, and how most people perceive things is they look at something and it's like, right, that's in this category, that's in this category. Whereas I can go out and I look at a tree and then all the categories of tree, the Latin names and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, it's just a tree. Yeah. And it has its uses. So I suppose for some people, they're going to look and they're going to say, well, that's a cryptid or an animal, whatever. But I'm pretty much on this thought pattern of they will appear how they want to appear.
Yeah.
And, you know, not necessarily is that how they are. And why other people can't see them, that's a bit beyond my understanding, other than a lot of children seem to be able to see things when they're very young.
Yeah.
And people near death or in a state of what they call heightened awareness can have them experiences, can't they? So I can't say.
No. I think you've answered it as good as I could have answered that one. That's absolutely brilliant. And like you said, that heightened awareness at different, and it's at different times, at different levels. The children, that's innocence, isn't it? And everything's open to receiving, should we say? And I suppose as you get older, or near death, should we say, not to be too morbid, you're in a different mindset, aren't you? I would think.
Yeah, I've been near death a few times, and I can say that, you know, in all honesty, I've seen things. I've read studies. I tried to fathom all this stuff, you know, for a long time, and as you know from speaking to me over a long time, I've tried to fathom it, and you know, there's no definitive answer. Nobody has the absolute answer.
No.
Right. But there is common things between occurrences, you know, certain times of the year, certain phases of the moon, when the sun's more active. There's certain things that seem to trigger them as much as like on the land. You know,
Yeah.
I've noticed, like, I go, obviously, you know, I like to go to standing stones and burial mounds and all sorts of manner of different place. And I find that a lot of them areas are very active, and I started trying to map in my head the places I've been where I've had experiences, and I started noticing like boundary lines, and I started
Yeah.
realizing inside them boundary lines, if you're inside one of them boundary lines, you're much more likely to have an experience, in my opinion, which don't count for much, but in my opinion from experience, certain areas can trigger certain things, but equally they can come out of the blue unexpectedly in the strangest of places.
So do you think then that, you know, the standing stones, the burial mounds, do you think that the ancient people knew that they were in an area, like special area, and placed those monuments and those burial mounds there because of that reason?
To my understanding and to the best of my knowledge, a lot of tribal people around the world, and our ancestors in this country were tribal people, they would bury their dead, and their medicine man or shaman or whatever you want to call him, who did their religious work, druidy, they didn't necessarily enter a burial site unless it was to bury the dead or to commune with the spirits.
Yeah.
So just on that sort of like storyline, you know, you go to these places, you have experiences. I mean, from some of the work that you've done, I've seen Willie Howe mentioned,
Yeah.
and the story of Willie Howe and the man, and you know, the fae folk. Well, in England, we've lost most of our old tales, whereas in Ireland they're still quite prevalent.
Yeah.
And you know, certain parts of the country, little pockets, still have their folklore. So yeah, you do the burial mounds and the standing stones definitely do have a significance, as can certain like churches which were built on these places.
Yeah.
But like I'm saying, equally, you could have it in your house. You could be, you know, just out on the Moor Road, but then again, what was there before the road was there? So
Yeah. Go on and on and on.
Things coming out of the sea. It used to be Doggerland,
Yeah.
North Sea. Yeah, it's full of settlements and things out there. Who knows what's lying underneath there?
Well, that's
And of
true.
course,
Yeah.
when you look at history, you'll see, you know, these things go back, you know, all the way through man's existence.
Yeah.
We have from cave paintings, petroglyphs, you know, different countries. You can listen to things, and there's common denominators that just come out again and again and again, and you know, they're there.
Rolls on through evolution, doesn't it? Before we leave this story where your gran stopped you jumping downstairs, I don't know whether it's a question, but we didn't. Mike, do you think this entity was leading you to deliberate harm?
I do indeed, yes. Without a doubt. I mean, I like a broken arm. I don't know how many bumps on my head, but yeah, when I went down them stairs, and bear in mind, it was only like two at most. Later, asked me to jump down my nan's stairs. They were, you know, quite a distance. So I could imagine I'd seriously doused myself if I'd have gone down there.
It makes you wonder why, though, doesn't it? I mean, obviously, there's nobody turned that one over in your mind more than you, Mike. But it's a strange one, isn't it? That it targeted you.
Well, my understanding of that is sometimes those that haven't passed over, they can be benevolent, or they can be malevolent. And unfortunately, I had a malevolent one that time.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll just throw this up. I don't think it's a question for Paul. I'm a fan of the channel, subscribed to all, commented on here a few times. I'd love to meet up sometime, hopefully this year. I'm in the Orkney Islands, huge history from up here. Oh, nice one, Gregor. Who knows, probably we will meet up, and thank you. I'll just see if there's any more questions before we move on. Right, there is one for you here. Right, Mike, did you have any sense of fear before the incident, before an encounter with this entity?
No, because as a child, I really didn't fear things. I thought he was there, you know, a friend. Even when he put me on the wall, as far as I fell off, when he called me and pushed me on the bike, I went and down the stairs.
Mm.
I didn't have any fear of him at all.
Yeah. Well, no. Well, kind of knowing you, the little bit that I do, I don't think you've got much fear of Oak, to be honest, Mike. I've sort of sussed that out over the years.
It's not that I'm being brave. It's just as a child.
Yeah.
I don't think I had that kind of. I didn't get any. I didn't get no chills, no apprehensive or anything. I heard the voice.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, this is interesting, and I've seen your question, Gregor, about the Neolithic world, but I'm just going to concentrate with Mike, but I appreciate it. What did the man look like?
He was, I'd say, somewhere between 50 and 60 years old. He had stubbly white beard, white hair, maybe 6 foot tall, maybe a little bit taller, slim. That was about it. That's what he looked like.
Right. Have either of you seen the film Insidious? I haven't. Not that I recommend it necessarily. I imagine it would be a chilling experience. I can't help you with that one, Tim. I don't know whether you've seen it, have you, Mike?
I have seen Insidious. Didn't really rate it, to be honest.
No. And Gregor says when he comes down, he's going to be travelling down on his motorcycle. Okay, mate.
Oh.
Excellent. Safe journey. Right. I didn't think we'd dwell as long on this one, did we? So Linda says, did the man bear any resemblance to anyone you knew?
No, didn't bear any resemblance to anyone I knew. But later on, when I was about 6-year-old, I'd been living in Custom House in Canning Town for about 6 months. I did meet an old man, and it could have been his twin brother.
Right, but did you feel any fear towards him or any? Did you think, is it him? No.
He had a great big great big orangey coloured chow dog that I used to sit and play with for hours.
Right,
in front of his flat. Yeah, but no,
excellent.
I didn't have any apprehension towards it. No.
So we've got 1992 to 1994. Unless you want to fill any gaps in between, then Mike.
If I started filling gaps in between,
we're not going to go anywhere else, are we?
We won't get anywhere else. And
we'll jump back to it. We'll jump back to it then. Just let's have a look at this one sec. Hi, Mike and Paul. Can't wait to see you. Oh, next week, yeah, because we're doing the sci-fi weekend at Scarborough next week. And do you think stone circles attract fairy folk? Who can say? I'll throw that at Mike just for a moment. Do you think they do, or do you think they're there because of the fae?
The fae take many forms, and basically, yes, indeed, they do. That's my humble opinion. Yes, indeed, they do.
Excellent. Well, it's good enough. So, Mike, 92 to 1994. Let's fill us in on a few of those.
Okay. Well, in around about between 1992 and 94, I was planning a trip to come up to Middlesbrough, and we started planning this trip in about November time, and so we were coming on the first day of what they call camping season, which is the 22nd roughly of March, and it was traditional that me and my friends would go camping around that time, but they'd never been that far. It was always like Epping Forest or High Beach or somewhere in that sort of area. But we decided to go to the exotic Middlesbrough and out to Eston Hills. So we planned it all out, and back then I used to carry rucksacks that'd be full of tins and food and everything, and we planned it out meticulously, and we bought our tickets on a coach, and we had a week for a return trip. So came the 22nd of March. We got the coach in the late afternoon, and we got to Middlesbrough at about 11:30ish.
Right.
Around then. Came out the station, got a cab to the base of Eston Hills, and started our walk up. So we're walking up Eston Hills. We just got onto what they called the nab area, coming up to where the nab is in line with it. And it was a clear night. lots of stars, beautiful stars. What you don't get it like that in the city, you see. So
No,
when
it's
we're looking
totally
at them stars,
unpolluted.
wow. Yeah. And there's me and my two pals who will be named. You know, I'm not going to say who they are,
No,
because I haven't got their permission to speak about them.
that's fine. It's all good.
Got onto Eston Moor, and just as we're literally onto the first part of Eston Moor, I've looked up and I saw a really bright star in the sky. And my two friends have went, look. I said, look, and they've looked up. And, wow. And then all of a sudden, it's more than trebled in size. And within not even a second more, it was like as big as a house. And there was no way I was going to be able to outrun it. My friends have gone and gone,
All right.
and it's coming right at me. And I literally dived onto the dirt and sort of into a thing, and I was trying to claw into the dirt for a second. That last bit of breath, you know, that was panic and fear.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Terror, you know. But I'm laying there, my heart's going 10 to the dozen, and nothing happens. I'm expecting to be squashed, you know, flat. I'm thinking this is a meteorite or something, and it's just going to kill me. But nothing happened, and my eyes were in thing. And as I moved up just from the dirt, even though my eyes were closed, I could see light. So there's light everywhere, and I turned around like that and looked up, and it was like kind of like oil on water, but in this bluish, very, very, very faint bluish white light with colours in it. And I looked at it, and I thought, wow. And I sort of could make out there was something inside of the light. And I went like that to touch it. And as I touched it, it went straight back up and gone, just disappeared.
Did you feel anything when you touched it?
I did. I can say I touched a UFO.
Yeah.
That's a bit of a big claim, a bold claim to say the least. But I say I touched a UFO. What it was, couldn't say, because it was massive, and I was on the floor until it shot off, and it shot off so quickly I couldn't make out what it was exactly. It just looked like very quick a light, and then it's, you know, a bright star for disappearing. And that was that. So I thought, oh, what the hell was that? You know, and I've got up and I'm going to me, call for my mates, and then my mates calling back to me, and my other mates calling back to me, and we come back, and they was in panic, and I was a bit panicking, and I was trying to like take the lead and be a bit brave because I'm with me pals, you know. And it's all right, it's all right. And they go, what are we going to do? I goes, well, we can't go back, can we? We ain't got no way of getting back unless we're going to walk. It's a long way. So let's just like set up camp. So we literally started setting up camp, and it's no later than, say, 12 o'clock when we're at the top of Eston Moor. Maybe a few minutes past, but not much. We started setting up the tent, and at the time, I used to always have a watch on.
Right.
And as I was doing so, I went like that, and it was 4 o'clock in the morning. And I'm thinking, what?
And obviously they got that sense of missing time as well, had they?
Well, we all had missing time. The thing is, one of them definitely had a very bad experience.
Right.
I don't remember anything else other than the light coming down and the light going off.
Yeah.
And my other pal, basically, he had a little bit of a memory thing, but I don't have any recollection of what happened. And I've tried many times to sit there and think about it, because I'd like to know what went on in that 4-hour roughly period that I was missing time.
Yeah.
But nothing, you know. And
we aren't being overly graphic then. What are you allowed to say a little bit of your friend's experience, or would you rather not?
To my understanding, they had interactions with whatever else was inside these things.
Right.
and it terrified them, literally
Yeah.
terrified them. After that, one of them never came out camping with me again, and sort of like our friendship became sort of
Distant.
very distant. And the other guy, he was around for quite a little while, but he'd never really speak about it. They definitely wouldn't speak about it if anyone was around. And I tried a few times to speak to him about it because I wanted to know, you know, myself, what had actually happened. And
But do you know, Mike, that's not uncommon though, is it? You know, these shared experiences, and it's almost, I've heard it loads of times where people, they're actually avoiding talking to each other. I mean, I know you're saying you wanted to, but I've heard that before where they don't want to face up to what, it's kind of acknowledging it and making it even more real.
it's also, you know, it's fear of ridicule a lot, because I mean, we were teenagers at the time, you know, like you know, teenagers, late teens. You know, they still, you know, they were probably like, you know, very scared of ridicule, very scared of, you know, what other people might think of them, because, you know, you only speak about this stuff, Paul, you know, on a cancer estate in Dagenham, for example, people are not going to be the best of thing. They think you're a complete kook until actually something happens, and years later, things you've been saying to people that come to pass, and they're like, "How did you know that?"
Yeah,
I can't go into that one, but
it's weird, isn't it? That is strange, that, because, you know, you get that giggle factor and you get people, you know, just taking mick out of people when they share these things. But very often you'll get some of that party, some of that group coming up to you in private and going, "Do you know something? I've had a little bit of an experience of something myself," when they daren't talk about it. You know, it is. I've just got, it's not so much a question, but the oil and water effect is quite common with these lights. What do you think it could be? I'll have an opinion on that in a moment, but go on. Any thoughts, Mike?
Well, to me, it seemed digitized. That's how I could describe it. You know, like when you see a digital image, it's got them tiny little pixels.
It's almost like pixelated. Yeah,
pixelated, but moving so fluidly, and it's very faint. It's very like translucent.
Yeah,
very translucent, and that's all I can say. I mean, it's light. Yeah, these things are lit up, so you know. I can't say what that technology, or whether it's, you know, I could say it's technology of angels, I could say it's technology of extraterrestrials. I can't say.
Well,
I don't know
like that.
I don't know.
I just drawing comparisons because months ago, Chris, who comes along Cliff Tops with us, Chris Mack, and Daz, his mate, who just he'd come up with Chris just to keep Chris company. Chris were away from us at the time. And he saw like a blue spike come up out of the ground. The craziest of things, but he said inside it looked like Amorite paint or oil on water, which is interesting, isn't it? You know, that kind of effect. So, you know, it must be somewhat common to some of these sightings, isn't it? Yeah, fascinating. Well, you know, when you touched it, and I'm dwelling on this again, did it feel hot, cold, or did you just get a sense of a presence?
Just felt solid. It felt like I touched.
Right. Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't hot. It wasn't cold. But I'd say it was metallic.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Simon says governments have made deals with ET races. Well, I don't know that Simon. They could have done that. Lets them take so many of us a year. My only thoughts on that are that if they're so superior to us in tech and in knowledge, why would they have to make a deal with any government? That's my thoughts. Any thoughts on it?
Well, I've heard a lot of these stories about government officials and, you know, the conspiracy theories. Whether they're true or not, Paul, you know.
Yep.
You know, are these people sitting in these places, you know, doing these sort of things? I'd say to some degree it's feasible, but I can't say 100%.
No,
because I'm not sat in one of them rooms in a meeting with these people making that deal.
It's great, isn't it? Because you've watched podcasts and listened to stuff on YouTube like we all have, and some people absolutely dote of people that are coming out with loads and loads of talking spaghetti about what these things are and how they perform and how they transform into this and that. And they haven't got a clue. If they had, nobody's got a clue. Yeah, they're absolutely glued to these people who talk spaghetti. But anyway, let's just have a look at this. Mulderite, do you think they knew where you were going, Mike? Almost describing a prism that you touched.
Do you think I know?
I think he's going to say you were almost describing a prism, but
do you think I know where I was going though? Yes, I do believe that they're able to know wherever I am. For obvious reasons. There's something I'm not going to mention on here, Paul. And
I know what it is. I was thinking of it then.
You probably know why.
I do.
But,
and the point is, I'm glad you've just said that because I would have mentioned it, because we've not said it.
It's one of the things that I'm very careful what I say about that because
makes sense. It makes sense.
Definitely they can know where you're going because I mean, I've been out in the middle of nowhere and then boom, and then I've been like in my house and boom, or I've been somewhere. I've travelled, extensively and had all these same things happening. So,
yep. We'll just get through a few of these. If that's, are you okay with these questions, Mike?
Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah.
I know the whole street in London where something happened, but no one will talk to, I should say, one another about it unless they are prompted. Well, I don't know about that, Blade, but maybe Mike does. I don't know, but I don't. But it's interesting.
I can't say for London, but what I can say for is when I was about 3.5, I lived at a place called Ellesmere Walk, and that's Brambles Farm, Middlesbrough, sort of the very bottom end of Ormsby Bank, on this little house that faced the school with my mum, and we was in the front room, me and my sister, my brother was very small, and we were playing. My mum was cooking or something. She'd come into the front room. It was late, it's probably about 7 o'clock. It must have been autumn because the nights were getting dark early. And we had big, heavy double-lined curtains. And all of a sudden they lit through. The whole house was bathed in light. Loads of people just dropped down on the floor, apparently. It happened in my house at night, asleep, and woke up with splitting headaches. And apparently lights were seen all over the back of this one area.
Right.
But I've tried for many years to find someone and speak to people about it. My mum remembers it well, even my sister does. But I believe that they're capable of what I call memory locking you. It's the only way I can describe it, memory locking you, because I have it myself. Can't remember that missing time. Yeah. And people can be prompted to talk. And again, there's that fear of ridicule factor and other things that go on. But, if somebody's had an experience and it's a mass experience, they're capable of locking that out or causing you to start feeling very uncomfortable when you try to probe that memory.
Do you know, it's great. It's a great way of talking about that and memory locking, because I've said with night people, loads of people in chat will have done this. You've probably done it, Mike, laid there trying to get a little bit further with what happened. And you just got fragments, just a little. If it were a 100-piece puzzle, I've probably got 10 pieces. Do you know what I mean? I'm 90 short and I can't get any further. Memory locking. I might use that. I'll quote you. That's a brilliant way of putting it, that, Mike.
Yeah.
And
memory lock, though. You don't get to try and think of it, let you pass.
Question. This is Outer Limits, so it's Chris Evers. This question for Paul, off topic. Is it okay to call you a sighting in the 90s this week? Best. Yeah, of course it is, Chris. Yeah, give us a shout. No problem. I see John Paul Body's in. Lee's doing. Let's have a look. Lee's doing the moderating. Alison's in. Margaret Webster. Let's have a look. Clifftop Pete. Good to see you, Pete. Linda. Little Bird. Let's have a look. 302 in chat. Nice one, Alison. Thank you. When you look at the experience that people have, let's have a look. It's not in capitals, that. So let's have a look. See if we can get some of your Zen. Let's have a look here. Hi, Mike. If you're ever thinking of hypno session, regression, sorry, maybe hold off. You may want the memories, but the missing time tells you that you should stay away. Just advice. I think that's good advice.
I believe it is to a very high degree.
Yeah.
A strange story. I met a man. He was in the medical profession. I was in a bar in the city of Westminster, and he worked in a hospital. And I drew something on beer mat because his profession, shall I say, involves looking inside people's bodies. And I asked him about this specific thing, and he turned around and said to me, "How do you know about that?" And I said, "Oh, I work in the same profession you do."
Mm.
I don't, obviously, but that's what I said to him. And he went, "Well, don't you know?" He went, "No, what?" "Well, you don't want to touch anything like that."
No.
We've
No,
had people go missing for a little while.
I think it's. I think we maybe forget for a reason. It's maybe for the best of reasons, you know. But right, let's.
I think it's fear and terror.
Yeah. Mike, did you notice any surgical marks on your body when you lost those hours? And did you feel different afterwards?
I did feel different afterwards. I was completely baffled as to what had happened. But there's a strange bit of this story that I've never told you, Paul, and that
Go on,
is the next 6 days spent camping. We went up to Rosemary Top and then across from Rosemary Top to a foresty area and camped on this big rock, which is roughly at the top of it, 3 meters by 6, and it's possible at the average hour size. It would say it is 3 hours his eye. Yeah. In the middle of a coniferous forest area, and I've been back for the last 30 odd years looking for that rock and never been able to find it.
Right, that's amazing, isn't it?
Was our entire camping trip
A fabrication,
including the missing time? Yeah, something else going on.
Yeah.
Can't say for certain, but I started to believe that in the last few years. But
yeah, it's interesting because I mean, your life, well, all your life has revolved around being in remote places, camping. You'd find that place, wouldn't you? You'd find it again.
Yeah, I'm a very capable outdoorsman. As you know, I had a heart attack, and they're not stopping me getting out. Never ever again. And I'll find my way from one place to the next. I've walked from one end of the country to the other, and so on and so forth, all over the place. Go into places, where I track deer and stuff, just to observe them, nothing else.
Yeah.
And I've come across many strange things over the course of my time, which I can't go into for varying reasons. But when you look and you know your way around a forest, for example, or an open moor, navigating an open moor can be difficult on an evening because you've got no landmarks you can see.
There's no points of origin. You can't. There's no to follow, is there?
I'll just put this across without paths,
No, and you can get there. Yeah. Paul, I seen a triangular craft come down from Eastern Nab and float over my car as I drove along the A174. Thought it was red light on either mast first, but it moved down the hill. Thank you. Oh, thank you, Kev. Where do you want to go? I'm just looking if there's any questions before. Gregor, what's he say? Can you please print some werewolfery t-shirts? Everybody's saying we need to get some kind of, I don't know, cups. I do have cups and things, but I'm a little bit slow with all that, if I'm being truthful, guys, aren't I? I'm just running down these questions just in case, because I know we're probably where you're going to go next. Right, Mike, I saw flying saucer in the mid-1970s in Manor Park, London. I'm now up the road in Dagenham. Have you had any experiences in Dagenham?
Yeah, I had a few experiences around the Chase area. And that would be 2006 to 7. I had a couple of experiences out in the back end of the chase. I've seen quite a few things out there, but one that springs to mind was I was walking by the side of a path on the edge that runs to Romford, past a riding stables there, and there's a big old oak tree, and this big old oak tree there, and there was a man hanging from it, and as I looked at him, he was like that. He just seemed to be looking at me, but there was nobody there. I haven't
Right.
had any UFO experiences there, but I've had some spooky experiences. I've seen lights in the sky, and I say this all honestly because I've had a lot of people have witnessed the same thing. Been lights in the sky on the fields, laying on the cricket fields, just observing the stars, which I used to do a lot. And I've seen a light, and it would stay perfectly still. Planes can't do that. There'll still be a constant rate of travel, even if they're in the water. You can tell this thing stopped. I've seen it multiple times, and they come over, and then as they come over, they change to a plane, or what looks like a plane. To the casual observer, you'd think it's a plane, but if you're really looking, and to some degree, I'm a trained observer. I won't go into why that is. Weren't a plane. Weren't a plane. It looked like a plane, and I watched it as it went from what it was to that shape.
I have a bit of footage from back garden filming on camcorder, just filming a large commercial airliner, and another one appeared. I've got that footage, almost like a ghost. It just appears, and there's two, and I've still got that footage. And somebody's going to call me out on it and say, "Can you put it up?" So I'll find it. Never, I don't think I've ever played it, and it's definitely there on a nice, bright, sunny day. And there's another plane appears.
You're dealing with a technology or a spiritual energy, maybe, that we can't quite comprehend. We aren't that advanced. You know, people think we're the pinnacle of existence. Yeah, these things are moving at how fast? You know, crush a human body. Yeah. So, you know, are these things physical, Paul? You know, we might be able to touch them, but that's our perception. You know, we might be able to touch them. They might be able to interact with us. But a lot of people hear it inside their heads when these people things interact with them. You know, and you know that's telepathy, or is that some super high technology that we just don't understand?
And is it the fact that we underestimate the power of what's in here, and they're able to access it and unlock, as in not mind locking, unlock and interact with us in a different way? I spoke other week about a lady on Doncaster Station. I think I did. I spoke about it this week to somebody anyway. I spoke to a lady first-hand account, and she saw this unusual man on the station, and she's looking at him, and then he started speaking to her in a mind. And they had a conversation. They sat opposite each other on a train. And she'd met an alien. So when people said they're amongst us, you know, don't discount anything. I know you don't.
I don't discount nothing.
Paul, seems you and Mike have similar things in common. Different stories, but similar. It is a bit of a relief to talk to someone who fully understands. I think that's why we connected a few years ago, and there's been little gaps in us talking, and then every time we connect, we're on a similar level, a similar sort of wavelength. Yeah, absolutely. Mike, where do you want to go now?
Well, I'll go to 2000. I'll pop to 2000.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm mindful there's questions, but I we'll not get to the juicy bits, will we?
Well, you never know. Well, 2000, I was moved into a house with my ex-wife, and we lived in a place called South Church, which is near Southend on Sea in Essex. And we lived in a little row of, I think it was 6 houses facing 6 houses or 5 houses. You know, memory issues still.
Yeah.
remembering that. But yeah, I was in bed and the wife was lying next to me, and it was summertime, and I heard a noise, and it woke me up. That noise woke me up, and I opened my eyes and looked towards the bedroom door, and I could see light because the door was just slightly ajar, but it wasn't normal light. It was like kind of like light underwater. If you see sunlight underwater,
you're looking up from underneath. Yeah.
It was kind of like that. And then first I saw the hand, and then the head, and this tall, I will say the word, alien / demonic looking being came into the bedroom. And I've gone like that to the Mrs. lying next to me, like, wake up, and she ain't waking up at all. And I went to grab something that was down the side of the bed, and it just grabbed hold of me by the ankles. Just under the grabbed hold of me by the ankles. And I went to struggle, and he just leaned forward and went doof, right on my head with its finger. And that was it. I was out, blacked out. Next thing, couldn't be more than a couple of seconds, because I'm just outside of the bedroom door going down the stairs. It feels like I'm floating. That's the sensation. Feels like
you
I'm floating.
came to a few seconds later. You've regained consciousness.
Yeah, I was groggy. It was like I was like extremely drunk.
Yeah,
that's the only way I could describe it. And I couldn't move, but I could move my eyes, and then I got movement, and then I got this rush of adrenaline. And as it was taking me out the door, I grabbed hold of the door for dear life, and I had long nails. I grabbed hold of that door, and it felt as it's like walking, it felt that little pull. It just leaned back, went, and I was out again. I couldn't, nothing. Don't remember anything. But I do remember as it was taking me out the door, just before when it went like that, and I'm looking, there was this something in the sky, huge, covering the whole street, and I was just terrified. I mean, this thing, terrifying, absolutely terrifying thing. And I felt so helpless, so so scared,
vulnerable.
Because there's nothing I can do, not a thing I could do. And I don't recall anything else happening other than the next thing I know, I wake up, I'm in bed. My heart's beating. I'm thinking, oh, thank goodness, it was just a dream. Just a dream. It's all right. Well, thank you. It's just a dream. Anyway, slipped out of bed, thought I'll go down and I'll make breakfast for the kids and that. And we used to have a milkman at the time. But at that time of year, you have to like race the birds, because like they'll be there pecking the top of the bottle, So I got the milk in, and when I opened the door, I wasn't paying any attention, and I've just grabbed the bottles, bit yawny, closed the door. As I closed the door, I could see my finger marks.
Really?
And then it dawned, like, that's when it really hit, and it really hit hard, because I'm thinking like, well, what's going on in my life? This isn't the first experience I've had, but this thing was, it was long arms, long legs, stereotypical Steven Spielberg, Close Encounters of the Third Kind type shape, but its face, I can picture that face. I can't describe it to you because it phases. It's like it's changing all the time. It's like they don't want you to see it. And that was my experience. But that's still, when I even think to that, it sends that in my chest. Yeah, it was awful. And I was thinking to myself, what's going on in my life? And I started then drawing pictures and trying to like draw this thing. I could never get a likeness.
Isn't that fascinating? But we spoke to a lady called Kate at Reeton, who in I think it was 1990. I can't remember. 1998. She saw this huge craft when she were in her husband's grandma's home, and it was literally just nearly. She thought it was going to take next door roof off of this little chalet on cliff tops. But one similarity, she says, I can see it, but I can't draw it. I've tried. As much as I try, I can't get it right. And I can see what it looked like, but I just can't quite do it. And there's a lot of people describing things the similar way to what you're describing there, Mike. It's fascinating.
Again, that's a mind lock.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It really is. And just one more thing then on that one. Excuse me. So you'll get dragged and you can feel your nails dragging along the door. Is this thing that physical that it's opened a door?
The door was just open. I don't know if it opened the door or didn't open the door. I couldn't tell you. I just know the door was open.
Yeah.
It could have just top and probably opened that door or whatever. I've heard of things, and I've had myself where they just come through the walls, come through.
Yeah, well, that
seems to be two sides in my experience of what I've had. There seems to be two sides.
Yeah,
one of them benevolent, one of them malevolent.
Yeah,
and that's my experience. These things that come that seem to be very, I don't know, materialistic in a way. They seem to be very, very. I can look after myself, but I wouldn't want to go up against one of these one-to-one.
No.
No way on this earth.
That's what I was thinking when you said that, because, I mean, I think you're brave talking about this, Michael. And I said to myself, well, I'm not brave. I've decided I'm going to talk about these things, and I've done Night People, but the things that I saw in childhood, they never came through any door. That's the reason I was asking. But it doesn't mean that didn't happen for you. 100% doesn't mean that. But they were just there, and I always thought to myself, because I've no memory of ever leaving that room. Never, even if I did, I've no memory of it. But they were just there. So a 3-bedroom council house in Old Dennerby, and they were just there. No doors opened or anything. They were just there. So somehow, I don't know how it worked. I don't know. Mind locked.
Well, it's one of these things, super high technology, or it's only one of two things to my mind. Super high technology, or it's spiritual.
Yeah.
To our human understanding.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
And maybe both sides are doing the same thing.
So, Patrick Kerrigan, something went through my mind the other day. Has anybody experimented with music at Bempton? Or was that coast of East Yorkshire, Patrick? To see if the phenomena is responsive to music and certain musics. Yeah, they have, actually. And Mick Park, my good friend Mick Park, who came up, he recorded some chants, Gregorian chants and other things. And it were really eerie, really sort of spooky, because there were just me and him on the cliff tops. It was misty. And he's there and he's playing these. Patrick, nothing happened, but that doesn't mean that we should rule things like that out, because I think what we're doing, Patrick, I don't know whether you agree, Mike, is we're creating some kind of mood and some kind of atmosphere, or even getting ourselves into some kind of condition to receive or interact.
You've got to be careful.
Yeah, be careful what you interact with. Yeah,
putting yourself into that and then bringing on an experience that isn't like necessarily reality.
Yeah, you make a good point. We'll do a few more of these, providing you're okay.
Yeah,
I don't know if this is a question for you or me. Evening, Paul. I found a picture of Woodchester Church Mansion ghost picture. If you click on Woodchester ghost picture, you should see it mentioned about it in the last live stream. Okay, Simon, we'll have a look for that. I don't know if you've seen that. Have you ever? I haven't.
No, I've not, unfortunately. No.
Right. Okay, I saw a demonic face when I was about 7 in my bedroom window, and it looked like Medusa with the snake creature on its head. Okay, well, probably giving you something to be frightened of. I don't know.
I can relate to that story, but without the snakes.
Really, really. So Linda says, does Mike think there is something about him that attracts all of these experiences?
I don't think necessarily it's something about me. the best way I'll answer this, and I'm going to answer this to the best of my ability. I think it's a very important question that Linda just said. We go out and we tag animals sometimes. Yeah, we don't get a specific animal. We don't. There might be 50 of them animals. It's just whichever one we can get the tag on. There we are. We tag that animal. Yeah, we can track it for its life. We know where it is.
Your tag.
So salmon, for example, or some sort of fish in the sea, and that's where it is. That's where I'm at. It's you know, there's nothing special about me. You know, I'm an average guy. You know, as far as I'm concerned, average looking, average height. You know, you know, I don't consider myself special in any way. Sometimes I think it's a curse. You know, as much as a blessing.
Yeah.
Some things I don't want to see, and some things I do want to see.
Yeah.
But I don't have a choice over it. Just like that salmon doesn't have a choice whether you take it and let it out in the sea, or we put it in a pen and make it swim round and round with hundreds of others.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it.
know.
I get it. Okay, Mike. So I'm gonna hold off on questions for a bit because we've done an hour already, mate. And where do you want to go now?
Well, we can go to 1970. I'll jump back a little tiny bit.
Jump back in time, but we have to do pinch and thought before we end this. We have to do pinch and thought before we end.
I will. It'll be the next one. But 1970. 1979, I'd say, roughly. I was asleep in my bed. My mum used to tuck me in my bed, read me a story, and then to turn the light off, and there'd be me cat and me dog in the room. Usually, the dog was sleeping in its basket, and the cat used to curl up on the end of my bed. And I was on the second floor masonette in the place called Custom House, Canning Town. And I remember very well, I woke up and I was scared of the dark at the time. And I used to have a real fear of the dark, because in the dark was when I used to get a lot of, sometimes things trying to talk to me or touching me, tickling me, that kind of case. And I used to fear the dark a bit when it got dark. So I always had a little torch in my bed if I could get batteries for one, you know. I had the torch in my bed. And all of a sudden I could hear the dog and the cat, and they're like, and some sort of like, first of all, I thought they were fighting each other. Right. So I've got up the courage. I got this little torch on. I got the courage. Got like that, took the sheet off from over me head. And as I looked up, there's this thing, and it's got its hand through the window around the dog's throat, and the cat is back, you know, going mad. This thing was huge, you know. It was huge. I'd say easily 8 to 9 foot. seemed to have wings, but I couldn't say that 100%. But the one thing I can remember from that night, and it's stayed with me ever since, all the way through my life, was I looked at its face, and when I looked at its face, these big black eyes, I couldn't see pupils or eyeballs. I just see blackness. And when it looked into that blackness, it was like, the only way I can describe it is all man's fear throughout time hitting you all at once. Right. And I jumped from the bed to the light switch, which was the room I had was a big room. And I hit the light switch, and I went bang, bang, bang on my mum's door, which was the next, just outside my bedroom door. Bang, bang. My mum opened the door. I was screaming and that. She's like, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" And she was a bit scared because her partner was on nights working as a cabbie up London. Right. She was a bit scared. "What's the matter? What's the matter?" "Monster, there's a monster," you know. So she's come in the room. There's the dog asleep in the basket, the cat on the bed. And I was saying, "The window's broken." "No window broken," because I think it's got its average. The window must have broken. I'm a kid, you know. And at first, she was just going, "It was just a bad dream." And then she looked at the bed, and there's the bed made hospital fashion. She didn't even make the bed like that. And It was just icy cold to touch. She goes, "Come on, son, you can sleep here with me tonight." I think she was more scared than I was.
Yeah.
But he put on bravery, and that was an experience. And it was that when she said about the Medusa thing.
Yeah, you
it's
said
been
I can relate. That's brought that memory
I
back.
can
Yeah, get
relate,
it.
but not with the snakes.
Yeah.
You know.
What do you think? I'm asking you a question, and I think you'd have told us if you knew. But what do you think that was, or what was it? What were it imparting in you to
Right.
give you an experience, didn't it?
It did, and it gave me an absolute fear. But the maddest thing about that experience was this: the day before, so it would have been a Saturday. I went to Queen's Market, and I had about 50 pence in my pocket. And I went to this little store and I bought a little crucifix, which was plastic with a gold Jesus on it, but it was plastic. and
Yeah.
and you put it in these little steps and set it up, and I set it on my window sill. That night is when this has happened. Didn't think
Right.
nothing of it because I was a kid at the time. Well, down below us, in the flat below us, one to the side, there was a guy who'd moved in there called Tom. My mum had just started speaking. He hadn't long been in there with his wife, and they had 2 children. And she didn't tell him what had happened. She didn't describe anything. And she got me to draw it because I've always been fairly good at art from an early age. And she got Tom to draw what he said it was. Tom was a Satanist, self-proclaimed Satanist. Yeah. And he took me down into his house and asked me to go into the end bedroom. And I walked down that room. And as I walked down that room, that passageway seemed to elongate. And I walked into the room, and it was all bathed in flames. And it was a man, body of a man, but a face of like a pig. And he goes, when I come back down that passageway quick as lightning into the front room, there's my mum and the adults and the 2 kids sitting there. And I'm like, he's going, "What did you see? What did you see?" He's going, "Oh." I goes, "Well, I don't want to go in here no more." But people like that seem to take an interest in me, like local mediums and psychics. You know, there's genuine ones and there's frauds. And the genuine ones seem to have always took an interest in me all my life.
Yeah.
You know, trying to like get me to do things. So I can say it's a strange
You just
experience.
follow your own path anyway, Mike, don't you? You know.
Yeah.
I'll just throw this up. It don't relate to us. I have some pics of ghosts in that maybe Whitby graveyards. Is it? I'm not. Oh yeah. Also UFO or something in the sky. How do I send it? Miriam, send them to my name, Paul Sinclair, ILF at gmail.com, and that would be great. Thank you. And I'll just get this cup of tea from my tea lady. Thank you, Mary. Right. So, we'll just have a look if there's any more questions, if you're okay.
Yeah.
Benjamin says, that's interesting. I don't know where this relates now. Do you think it changed its face to show you that they are multi-faced?
I don't think it changed its face to show me it's multi-faced, but I'd say this, Benjamin. To my understanding now, as some 50 odd years, you know, of having these things, I can say this with all honesty. They'll appear how they want to appear, and if they want you to feel fear, you'll feel fear because they'll conjure what scares you. You know, reminds me a bit of that Ghostbusters film where he goes, "Don't think of anything." He thinks about the Marshmallow Man,
and then it appears. Yeah, get it. Yeah,
giant Mr. Stoper, right? But you know, it weren't necessarily what scared him, but that's what I'm saying. They can appear whatever they want to appear, and it's way beyond us. I mean, we've got history going back. I think some of the first tales of things like werewolves, which lycanthropy, go back to sort of ancient India and Samaria. You know, they're all across the world. These things, there's common denominators in how these things are appearing, and yeah.
What's fascinating, Mike, when people talk about the werewolf and lycanthropy, and everybody seems to think that it's all to do with silver bullets and the moon, and you know, like you've just pointed out, then these reports and a lot of these ancient texts predate films by not just hundreds of years, but thousands of years in some instances, don't they?
They go back at least, written records go back at least 6,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you're going to go into 6,000 years ago to write it down, you can say the oral tradition was probably 80,000 years before that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Brilliant.
Huge period of time. Could be even longer.
Well, we've got this one. Mike, did tragic or bad things happen after you saw the demonic figure?
Tragic or bad things. Well, we did used to have a lot of activity in the house we lived in. For example, there was 4 people sitting on the sofa, two men, 2 women. One of them my mum. And they were sitting on the sofa, and it came off the floor and bounced from side to side of the room like a ping pong ball. They jumped off and ran out of the house. I was sitting there watching it go, wow. And we used to have things go missing, and then like they just drop out the air, like literally drop out of the air.
So the airports, yeah.
Yeah, my sister used to live with her dad for a while, but when she came to stay with us, she was getting tickled. Also, all sorts of things happening in this house where I used to live in Custom House. And years later, I found off my friends underneath it wasn't just happening to me. The whole of the little block, the kids.
That's where I was going to go with that. Then, now, do you think that house, the activity were enhanced by having you and your family in it, or do you think it were happening there all of the time? And is it still? Do you think?
I'd love to go back, knock on the door, and find out, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought about it many times. Yeah, many times.
Yeah.
Because I remember sitting on the floor playing with like little soldiers and figures, and having this man standing there shouting at me, and he was a big man, curly, shouting at me, and he was really having a go at me. And at first I was crying when I used to tell my mum didn't do nothing, and she couldn't stop what was happening.
No,
she couldn't see it.
No.
And then, it was going in my head. I could hear it in my head, but I could see him, visually see him.
Yeah.
It was only because I met, like I said, some of these clairvoyant people, some of these people with, I suppose, understanding of these things to some degree, helped me to, as a kid, to not fear it as much.
Yeah, just to sort of negotiate the I don't know, the obstacles. Yeah.
I sat in a woman's house once and said to her, "Yeah, there's a big drawing on your wall. A man's going to drop dead on your doorstep, and your house is going to burn down." Right? And my mum goes, "Shut up, you can't say things like that." And then, lo and behold, next day, her house burns down. Right? Well, a man dropped dead on her doorstep as well. Like, this is like in the next day.
I hope you're not seeing up to me.
When the fire brigade come up and sprayed the house, the wallpaper come out, and on the wall was a big circular drawing with another circle with all this strange writing in, and what looked like a deformed fetus picture chalked on the wall. Okay. And the woman was Barbadian, and she had this woman, another woman called Joan, who was a bit of a sort of voodoo and all that. And yeah, long story there, but yeah, that really happened.
Fascinating. So where are we going now then, Mike?
Go to Pinching Fault. That's around about 2011.
Yep.
It was late afternoon. I picked the kids up from school, and it was a Friday. Thought, who wants to go camping? So 3 of them said, "Yeah, we want to go." So there was young Jack, who you've met, and 2 of my girls. And we walked from getting off the bus at Moorzone area on the Moor Road, and walked around paths and all the way up Pinching Fault. So when we got there, made something to eat. We set up camp by this wall with a view of rosemary topping and a field that usually had cows in it. And there was trees there then. Now all the trees have been cut down.
All right, okay.
I've set up the tent, and I'm quite aware of ticks by this time in my life.
Yeah.
And they carry diseases like, Lyme
Lyme
disease,
disease. Yeah.
or encephalitis or whatever. And I thought there's going to be protocols when I get in my tent, and always has been ever since. So if I get in my tent, I make sure got no grass, no leaves, no ticks on me visibly. And when I get in my sleeping bag and that, before I get in, I have a check, because I don't want to get any ticks. And I try to keep my tent as clean as possible. So we take our shoes off and we put them in the porchway. So that's what's happened is each child has got in the sleeping bags, because I've set it all out in there.
Yeah.
They've got in. There's no grass, there's no leaf litter, there's nothing in that tent. I've got in my bag, got a little light on in the tent. We had a little chat and they nattered about something, and then everyone went to sleep. And I'm laying there and I was sleeping. And then I heard a noise outside the tent, and that's again what woke me up, was this noise. Then I heard it moving outside the tent, coming from in front, the side to the front of the tent. Then I heard the tent getting unzipped. But the moment I've heard that, I've grabbed, because I had a bushcraft gear with me, and I always had a knife for cutting up food or for making things. So I've grabbed my knife and I've put it here on my chest, and undone this. I've got my sleeping bag undone. And I'm thinking, this ain't some mad person, because I've heard tales of people up there with like machetes and things or whatever. And I'm thinking, oh no, and I've got 3 kids with me. And the second inner zipped out, my heart's racing, and as that inner sheet fell down, I'm just getting ready for whatever's going to happen. I think, please, I really don't want to be in this situation, and I'm expecting it to be a person.
Yeah.
And it's like literally, imagine me laying down and these things come like that in front of my face. And the moment it was there and I saw it visibly, it went right across me up there, and I couldn't move. I just couldn't move, like as if I was like stuck. And it was the same sort of thing that I described when I was
Before, yeah.
And it just grabbed hold of my son, and then he looked back at me and saw me awake, and went, zzz, I was out. Again, I was out. And then the next thing I know is I can feel I'm moving, and again it's like I'm floating.
Yeah.
And I wake up and my head's hanging to the side, and I can see out of my peripheral vision, I can see one of my kids going in, and the other 2 being like, they seem like they're just being levitated across in this field. There's this big, it's not quite oval, it's not quite a tic tac, this big thing in the field. And it's got like just one door thing open, and what looks like a ramp, as far as that's all I can describe it. Lit light emanating from there, and it weren't very bright light. And I was like in terror, because the kids have, the kids, and I'm thinking, what's happening?
And you're helpless.
Yeah, and this is all in a space of a second. My mind is racing, fast, And again, noticed I was conscious. Boom, out. Anyway, wake up. I'm in my sleeping bag. Just a dream. And then my son wakes up and he goes, last night, Dad, these tall, skinny Chewbaccas. That's what he described them as. Tall, skinny Chewbaccas took us off. So, to a child's mind, I'm seeing that phasing face. If you're seeing a phasing body and a phasing face, it might appear as hair and they're skinny. And maybe to that child's mind, it's a tall, skinny Chewbacca. He's Star Wars fan. That's what he described them. But then my daughters wake up saying the same thing. And then I look around the tent and there's leaf litter and other stuff. So when they've brought us in and out of that tent, they've brought in the stuff with them, and no one had went out of that tent. You couldn't get out of that tent without knowing.
That confirmed it, didn't it? And when you were describing it I said, is it a bit like iron filings? You see that movement, the magnet kind of thing.
Yeah.
And as I said, your son spoke to him, didn't we? And
Yeah.
sort of echoes the same story. So if he hadn't have said that last night there were some tall, skinny Chewbaccas, would you, with all things that have happened in your life, Mike, would you have put that down to a dream, or would you have thought, no, there were more to this?
No, I wouldn't have put it down to being a dream. I would have hoped it was a dream, Paul.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that they're not the nice ones.
No.
I wouldn't say that they're benevolent in any way, or that they have your best intentions. That are fear, and there's a smell that comes with it. And when you talk about silence,
that lower silence
in an area, like that deathly silence that comes. It's that, everything seems to stop. And I've often wondered, is that a way of, in a way, time locking an area? Do they lock the area in some sort of field that we can't, a bubble?
Yeah, I think they maybe do. An example I'd got for that, and I spoke about it a few weeks ago, was the lad in Wolflands, Gaz, who was on top of Scalby Mills, so you'll know where I mean. He's overlooking Jackson's Bay, I think, looking down into it. And he's star watching. He wants to see Aurora as well, hopefully. And he said, and then all of a sudden he realised he couldn't hear seagulls, because, as you know, a lot of people do. Yeah. They don't stop in night. They're better than owls. They're brilliant, aren't they? The good night vision. He says, but everything had just stopped. Well, it ain't got the power to stop the sea, has it? So it's locked us into some kind of environment of its making, hasn't it? I think. Yeah, so. Indeed. So you felt that? Did you feel the silence then when you were laid in tent?
Yeah, it's one of the common things that seems to happen when these things happen. It's like, why wasn't my whole street away? They must have locked down the whole street, and I think what it does is it puts the majority of people, into a very deep state of sleep. So they're not going to wake up. Yeah, because I'm telling you now, when that thing was coming to the door, I was, wake up. When the thing with the kids is a bit different, because I'm thinking kids, and they're getting away. I'm just thinking, I honestly thought I was going to be in a fight for my life or something, whatever. The children are there.
So as you're going across that field and it's touched your head, and the next thing you're conscious, or you're awake and you're back in your tent. Yeah. Is there nothing in between that then, Mike?
Not particularly at the time. Some years later, and we're talking like nearly a decade later, I tried multiple times to revisit it, and I think I went to the site a few times. I think I phoned you a few weeks ago. I said, I'm out on a walk, and I'm right at that place. I found the exact place. The exact place. It's right here, and I'm sitting on the wall on the stone. And there's no trees hardly there, And I tried to have a real think and a real, I got this very, very sick. It started making me feel sick, physically sick.
You tried to go deep with it and dig some memories out.
Yeah, it started making me feel physically sick, and I got a very bad headache. Trying to find out what had gone on, and I kept on getting this flash, and then black. It felt like I was blacking out for a second. Flash, face flash. Face flash. And something. I don't think it was pleasant whatever happened. So I don't.
Well, like one of them things, Mike. You're not meant to remember, are you? What's this? Did Mike? Oh, well, we've done that one, haven't we? So my apologies for that. This is just basically saying, well done, Mike, for having the courage to tell us your experiences, and I thank you for that as well. Somebody here, Simon says, what about Paul and Linny singing opera on the cliffs? Well, that music, that'd be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, we'd give it a go if we thought so. Well, maybe we shouldn't. Let's have a look. I'm knocking these out without reading them, but I'm pretty sure that Lee and Gemma and Alison will have had a look. We recently had our local refurbished, and the workers disturbed what was haunting the place. We had glasses moving by themselves, and the spirit of a young girl has been seen and heard. Yeah, I just changing it. It's like that when people buy an house, isn't it? An old property where, you know, people have lived in for many years, and it's almost like they don't want you to change it. I don't know, maybe.
Sometimes people don't know they're passed over, and they still think they live there. That's the thing.
I get it. Yeah.
And have you ever thought it could be the other way around, Paul?
Yeah. Absolutely. What's this? Last message from me. I'll become a member tomorrow. Payday. You don't have to become a member, Gregor. It's free. It's free, my friend. Money extremely well spent. Honestly, just like and subscribe. It costs. I may as well get that one in while we're on with it. It's totally free. So if you've got the subscribe button somewhere on your phone, your laptop, your computer, press it. It's not going to cost you a penny. And yeah, it's just supporting us a little bit. And anybody interested in the books, truthproof.uk website, or you can get the Kindle versions on Amazon, or the Amazon Prime for Wolfland's DVD, truthproof.uk. So thanks for that, Gregor. Let's see what questions we've got for Mike now. Are you still okay for time, Mike?
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah.
Paul, I've got all the time in the world. There's plenty of people want to talk about it.
Right. Hi, Paul. We're fasting to see how Mike is under hypnosis. Well, we've done that 155, and I don't think it's going to happen. And I've been asked myself about that a few times, and I don't want to do that. I think some things are best left unremembered. Yeah. Right. Let's have a look what we've got here. At my previous address, we have a forest where people are scared to go into. There is a hidden well, and 2 people died, and spirits walk the wood to this day. Okay, thank you. Little Bird, do you think entities seem to know who is suitable to visit, who is receptive to them? Although I'm open-minded, nothing remarkable has happened. I assume to yourself, Linda.
Well, when you say are people susceptible, all people are susceptible, right? We all are. None of us are different to anyone else. I mean, maybe in our physical appearance, yeah. But these things, they'll appear to whoever they want to appear, and it's not always, you know, it's not as if I've got some special power that the rest of us haven't got. Yeah, they can choose to reveal themselves to whoever they want. I mean, if they can appear however they want, they can just, like, at the same point, if they can come through walls, if they sometimes open doors, if they drop through your ceiling, then they can appear as all manner of things. Why can't they just be invisible?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You know.
When I saw the Medusa entity, it was 1979. Thank you, Christopher. Let's just keep going. Enough of the werewolf shenanigans. Right, let's have a look at this. Ian Linney, Paul, Iron Filing's face. We both got that when we talked to Mike. Yeah, this is Linney, who you spoke to on Cliff Tops. Yeah. Was a few months. That's what he actually looks like in daylight. That little thumbnail, Mike. That's his best look. That, but yeah, it did kind of, you know, because you can understand your kids perceiving it as fur, can't you?
Yeah, you can.
Absolutely. Right. Well, we couldn't possibly say, but Mike must have an implant. Maybe we can't say we don't know about these things. Let's have a look. Benjamin Hollins. Do you think the other side is bound by any rules?
I do indeed, yes. I do think that it's like this. If you look at just our basic life, yeah, anyone doing anything, no matter who they are, right, when it comes to what we'll call it the occult, yeah, the hidden knowledge, the hidden bases, secret societies and the like, they have to reveal what they're doing before they do it. Yeah, they have to give you a heads up. It's like a rule, you know. And there are rules, you know. There are things they can do, and there's probably things they can't do. And that tells me that, like, you know, there's some kind of adjudicator over everything. You can call it God, you can call it what you want, but there's something that controls, you know, and as the ultimate say on everything. Because otherwise, I mean, if these things are that powerful, You know, as far as I'm concerned, they're very powerful things. So they can, you know, they could be to the detriment of man, and they can be for the good of man. You know, they could tell you things, or they could give you like inventions. You know, I don't believe for a second, right, that every invention that man's made came from nowhere. Most of the inventions we're using at present came from people trying to contact the dead. So you're talking the internet,
Yeah.
you're talking televisions, telephones. Have a look into who they invented them, why they were inventing them, and it goes back. Man's had this fascination with trying to find out if there's life after death.
Yeah.
It's one of them things. Is this it, or is it the end? Right? I can say with certainty that there's life after death. Not
Yeah.
many people can worldwide. I know there's life after death. Right? I can't convince you of that. I can tell you it, but you have to have an experience to know that. You know, you've had these experiences through your life. You can say whatever they are. For me, yep, I've seen, you know, these things come in many guises, and I'll take it as a matter of faith that, you know, there's something more to life than just this.
Yeah.
Some people have, you know, memories of previous things, and you know, there's lots of examples. I know a few people, yourself and one of them. That don't make me different to everyone else, because there's other people like me.
And there's other people having these experiences that they don't remember.
Yeah, and they don't. You know, I don't remember some of the things that have happened. I remember, you know, and how many times have I had it where they've taken me and I don't know about it. You know, I mean, I did have a real, you know, I had a real rough time, and I think that's when I first started contacting you when I moved into this house, and I was getting grabbed like literally, Paul. At one point, I was getting grabbed nearly every other night. You know,
Yeah.
like getting grabbed.
Yeah.
And I was just helpless. I was helpless, you know, and I weren't in an emotional state. I weren't in a state of any worry or anything. I just moved into a house, had kids. I was, you know, it was quite a happy time in my life, and I was sleeping downstairs in this very room, and you know, I got grabbed. I got grabbed multiple times, you know, and they made it, you know, they made a point of, you're gonna know we're coming here, like I
Yeah.
told you, and then, you know, I'd be awake, waiting, you know, waiting. And then you just get to that place where you're just about between sleep and awake, and then they come.
Yeah. And you're never ready.
And they come and get you, and there's not a thing you can do about it, you know. And talk about, you know, things like, you know, I've heard you talking about, like, you know, and we've talked about things like, you know, time slips and things like that, right? And these are, for me, it's all one subject. They're all interconnected. Nothing's different. I've had, you know, like I said, I walked up Eston Hills. I know Eston Hills very well. I spent a lot of my time walking over Eston Hills. I love the place. And I walked up one path, walked to the nab, walked back down the same path, and the next thing I'm coming from about a mile in the easterly direction.
Is this when you were with one of your lads?
I was with me lass.
Yeah, yeah.
And there was a hare on the floor in front of us, big hare. It was dead. That's all I can say. Dead hare on the floor. A large one. Largest one I've ever seen, actually. And
how that happened,
like,
you've no idea. No flashes of light, no sort of intro to it at all.
No, not possible. And then another time I was up there with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. We walked up to the nab from the opposite side. So that's the side of Eston Town, that side. I walked up to the nab, come back down the same path, and the next thing we was coming from about half a mile down on the other side. It's not possible to do. You'd have to walk, you know, and we was coming down the same path that is basically more or less straight all the way up.
Yeah, yeah.
And multiple times we've had things like that happen. My son, multiple times when we've been out, we've, you know, we've spent time seeing things, tracking deer. Saw a deer get grabbed, basically. We're tracking deer, and I was tracking deer, and I thought, what's this other print? I couldn't work it out. And a deer got grabbed. There was 2 deer. One of them got grabbed. I don't know whether it was a male or female. As I come under the thing, these things looked up, and they scaled a vertical wall carrying a big deer, you know, like a Spider-Man. That's the only way it's,
Yeah.
you know, I tried to climb that wall with rope and stuff, and it's got lots of plants and loose rocks and stuff growing out of it, and it's a hard climb. My son done it with me. We went. We was hearing owl noises, but they weren't owls, and they were above us. We couldn't get our way out of the forest. We ended up having to like do what I call straight lining and physically thinking. And that means every step you take, you physically concentrate that you're going in one direction. And we were crossing a river. It was in autumn, and it was absolutely freezing. We crossed the river at like this sort of height, you know, to get back and get out of the area. And you have to think every footstep, because otherwise you're just going to go around there. So as long as they want you to go around in there, because whatever they do is it's not
totally disorientating.
It's paranormal. It's paranormal, and it's, you know, a scary thing when it's happening to you. Afterwards, you look back and you laugh at it, but at the time, it's not funny. You know, when you're hearing screech things, you see these. We see three beings. You know.
Yeah.
That's a scary. It's scary for stuff happening. Like, you know, being taken out your house when you're trying to just go to sleep.
Yeah. I met a man at Flixton, Mike, and his wife, Gordon, they call this fella, and he were driving home from Scarborough back to his home in Leeds. He'd been working out in Scarborough area, pulled in at petrol station close to Flixton, get some fuel, slowly driving away, and he looks in field. And I'm not sure if you've been to Flixton, you probably have.
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
it rises pretty steep to 500 foot to top where Staxton Wall radar is. When there's the woodland, and he could see the sheep, and he's only got just pulling away. He said, and a sheep, literally, as though you imagine grabbing it with your hands if you were strong enough on its side, the wool, and then just pulling it sideways as though it were gliding. He says, and it just went into wood sideways, and he drove from Leeds.
Yeah.
That's when I don't mean, that's when you're certain somebody's telling truth, but he drove from Leeds to meet me, to take me to place, to show me. It had affected him that much. So it didn't go like running or go backward. It literally just went sideways up into wood. And he says, I just couldn't believe what I were looking at. I mean, he might even be looking at this now if he is. Get in touch again, Gordon, because I'd like to talk to you.
You just mentioned another thing there. You know, you're talking about, like, you know, these radar stations. I've noticed again, as well as like stands top of Eston Hills, big communications beacons. You know, again, these sort of things seem to, like, you know, they seem to amplify these things, or you know, and old settlement areas as well.
Military installations, they seem to favour, don't they?
They do. They like to buzz them, don't they?
Mike needs to document all of this in a book. Maybe you should, Mike.
Maybe you should do it with me, Paul.
Yeah, well, I think between us, it'd be interesting.
I'm not a writer, Paul. I'm not a natural writer. Speak for England, but not a writer.
Well, I tell you what, my spelling's atrocious. Thank God for spell check. I'm so pleased that I did those books before because people are turning books out now with AI, you know, and everything that's in them sort of come out of here. Let's have a look. There'll be somebody just cracking a joke there saying, well, it won't be much good then. Sounds like Freddy Cougar keeps coming for Mike in his dreams. Okay, we'll just keep, we'll lob down a bit. Right. So Mike's experiences has to be the best case of alien abduction in the UK. Absolutely amazing. I would agree. It's absolutely stunning. That's why I was so keen for you to tell our listeners the Pinchinthorpe story, because I think I've probably told it on podcasts 3 or 4 times. And it's brilliant when you actually get the actual man himself there to kind of back up your words.
Yeah.
And
well, I've been trying, right? So, you know, like maybe little videos. You know, I have a private Facebook, and you know, people send me a friend request, always welcome, right? But the thing is, I keep my things full. I've got this private little Facebook group, and I make like little videos, you know, right? And I make little videos, and what I'm trying to do is for people that, you know, understand this stuff. I'm on here tonight talking to you. People who've had these experiences, there's comfort in knowing you're not alone, you know. Right?
Absolutely.
Even if it's, you know, because some of the things are bad and some of the things are good. But when they're bad and you feel alone, I know what it's like to feel alone and feel terrified, you know. And you know, I met a man in Whitby, funny enough, in 2010, and he was one of the first people that really talked to me about anything. And it was an old guy. He was, I don't mind mentioning his name, Hector Chilton, his name was. He was a councillor in Whitby once. He was a local, lovely man. Like, you know, I couldn't speak of anyone any higher. Lovely man, big fella, you know, big fella. Back in the day, no one would mess with Hector. And he was a farmer's son. And he used to tell me lots of stories. And one day he told me this story, and it was the truth. Like, you know, he was a church-going guy, you know, with like literally he wouldn't lie.
Yeah.
He was driving across the moors one night, and he hit an owl, a large owl, hit it with his car. This is going back in a sort of late 1960s, early 70s. And Hector being Hector, he's got out of the car and it's still alive. So he's put it on the back seat. This thing had just run out in front of the car. Not flown, bear in mind, run. And he put it in the back seat, and then he's driving, and he's driving that back road from Scarborough to Whitby. So it's back in the day, it'd be a lot different to how it is now, I'd imagine, in, you know, the road. And it's an old vehicle. And he's got the radio on, and all of a sudden, this thing started screeching, and all the electrics in the car stopped out in Eston Moor, and he goes, "It weren't no owl."
Yeah.
It weren't no owl, Mike. It weren't no owl. And the next thing, it got out of the car, and then a few seconds later, the lights went back on and the electric went back, and then he drove back home. But he had missing time.
And what did he? Where did this owl go then?
It wasn't an owl.
You know, get that, but so it weren't there when he came to and his car's drivable again. It weren't there.
Yeah. No, it got out, but he had missing time.
Yeah.
When you're telling me the story, I knew what he was talking about straight away when he started going on about owls and that, and he's talking about the car going off, and I knew what he's talking about. But
and this is a dyed-in-the-wool farmer, this, isn't it? You know, he's sort of
he became an hotelier in Whitby. He's a really lovely man. Like I said, he was a church gay man, lovely man, and he told me that story, and like I had not one bit of shred of that. It was telling me the truth.
Yeah.
You know, and like I said, I've had these things happening to me. You know, ended up in places I don't want to be sometimes.
Yeah.
And
we'll just.
You know,
I'll throw another question at you, Mike. If that's do you think they look? Do you think they took your physical body or your ethereal body?
I'd say they're capable of taking both, but it's a really good question, because that feeling of floating, which I can't happen in this physically, but I believe they can manipulate the physical, so they can manipulate everything's atoms. Yeah. If we say scientifically, everything's atoms. Nothing's really solid. It just appears solid. So they can manipulate that somehow. So they've got to be able to do both, because they're taking energy, solidified energy, which is the physical, and your thingy. Some people, I've spoken to who've had experiences, have had like OBE experiences. That's the ethereal body, I think you're referring to there. You know, yeah, definitely they're able to do both. So.
Well, we kind of touched on it earlier, Mike, didn't we? When you were on about your fingernails on the door, and I sort of said, well, they were always there, but there were a physical to them. You know, that same in property we're in now, 1993 to 98. That's when it were active. And you touched on another thing that were interesting. You said it started straight away when you moved into that property. It started straight away for me when we moved into this. And I mean, straight away, within like days of us being here, it were happening. And that's like a transition in our lives, isn't it? And probably the same for you. I
think it's like this. You move place, you think, oh, I've got a new place, right? You move, we know where you are.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
You know.
Right. So Dragonborn Rising says, do you ever wonder why you were chosen to experience what you have, and how do you feel about your children being targeted?
Well, if I'm totally honest, Paul, my nan had the same issues. Other people in my family probably had the same issues going back in time.
Yeah.
That's just an educated guess. I know my nan did.
Mm.
Sometimes maybe they tag a line, a family. You know, they tag a family, they tag people. Sometimes they tag an individual. But like I said, why are you chosen? Can't say, you know. Yeah, was it because my nan was in the wrong place at the wrong time? Was it because her mother was in the wrong place or at the wrong time? Or
it's just hard to say, isn't it? Because
but maybe once they've got a lineage, maybe they're trying to stick with. Maybe they're studying something.
Well, they don't give us anything, do they? Everything's on their terms.
Yeah, I've written out in ancient Sumerian, right? Ancient Egyptian hieroglyphics, different types of Sumerian text, other languages on a note. Can you tell me what it is you want? I don't think they speak any of them languages.
It's a universal. It's crazy though, isn't it? Don't you think? So
they can talk to us and they talk to you in your mind or physically, but you know, when we talk to them, I'm imagining it's like me going to an ant and trying to talk to it in a way. You know,
it's not gonna learn much, is it, from us? I get it. So Doc Martin says, Mike, did you keep any of the mud or debris from the tent?
No. As soon as I got up and we got the tent, emptied it out, packed up, and left. I didn't want a thing. I know the exact location of where that thing was touched down, and I went back there to have a look. You know, over the time, on the field is easy to find. The actual camping spot was a bit harder, but
just out of interest, Mike, have you? And it's probably going to be a no because I can't say as I've got out like that either. But have you ever kept anything that you thought has had contact with these unknown others?
Only my body. Only my body. Or my clothes have long since gone.
I asked that because Martin's question that he's just asked, because I know he'd be very interested if you had.
It's a great question, and I understand why that would be, because obviously there'd be some people looking for residual energy signatures in the mud, I'd imagine, or the debris.
Okay.
Maybe people have it on their bodies.
Yeah.
Maybe that's another way they're tracking it with something we can't see or maybe even quantify.
Yeah. Right, Richard. I don't think it's random why people are taken. It could be bloodline. Well, Mike's just touched on that, Richard. And I know you put question in before that, but it's just as it came up. So let's just get through a few of these because we've only got 15 minutes here. Let's have a look. Mike, do you think implants are trekking certain bloodlines? I don't know, to be honest.
Well, I could tell you what I think.
Yeah.
What I think on it is maybe they implant things with which you can't see, or like not a physical implant. Although physical implants do exist, I could say maybe they do something with people's metabolisms. You know, change the signature. Maybe there's all these maybes. Maybe they're doing it for, because a lot of people say they have things where they're taking sperm and eggs and stuff, right? Or babies are being birthed and they're not being fully birthed and disappearing and stuff like that. I hear all these stories. You know, and some people say they're not genetically diverse enough for that. But at the same point, I see another side to the thing of, are implants real? They're definitely real, and can they tag a person blood-wise or in another way? Yeah, for sure. Like, you know, for sure. But I mean, how they do it, you know, there's a different thing. I know what
we sound a bit like kind of ancient aliens, don't we? Is it possible? Could it be? It's all, none of us know, really, do we? We know that there's some substance to what's happening, but we don't know the answers,
the
do we?
problem is, Paul, without certain things, right, to hold up in front of people, right, you can't just say certain things, you know?
Absolutely.
Because once you pass that lit line and you go, yeah, right, then what's going to happen next, you know? And that's what you've got to
And then there's then there's the point of, you know, science is looking at. I dare say there's a lot of factions of science that are looking at this, and some of them don't want to lose funding, or they don't want to step out and openly say they're looking at it. But I don't think, maybe they do realize, but this can't be replicated in a lab. Everything that's happened to you and happens to other people, the things that we're seeing, they're not experiments that can be replicated. Whatever it is works on its terms and its rules, and it's not. Yeah. Let's have a look here, mate. Janice, Mike, have you ever had a good experience, maybe with deceased relative, for example?
I've had some very good experiences. I can tell you two very briefly. The first one was back in the very early 90s. My nan passed away. My nan was my closest member of my family. She passed away somewhere near Rotherham, I believe. And I was in Dagenham, and I woke up. It was very early in the morning. My nan was sitting on the bed with her dog, Bluey. Bluey had passed away, though, this little Yorkshire Terrier, a long time before that. She was sitting there with her dog, stroking him. And she's all right, son. And she's talking to me. And all right, Nan, how did you get here? I was asleep, you know, not even thinking. And I'd love talking to her. She's going, I'm gone, but I'll always be watching over you, son. I'll always be here for you, you know. And no. And I'm on the other side now. All right, Nan. Right, I'm going to go now. Bye. And she left. And the next day I was I'd got up, I'd gone out, and I was with my friends at a car park, and my brother come round, that went, Nan's dead. So although it was a bad experience when I died, it was a good experience that I got to say goodbye in a way.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was, when I was about 4, I was living in Berwick Hills at the time. I moved about a lot when I was a kid, living in Berwick Hills, and I'd gone off to the field on my own, and I was only little, you know, and I'd gone missing, and there was people out looking for me because I was missing all day. And I got to this bridge, and I was sitting on this bridge, and I was bathed in this white light, and there was these 3 little boys with curly hair, white eyes, white skin, all in white, and they sat and played with me. They sat and played with me for ages until I heard the voices of the people calling me, and they were just, you know, and then they went, and they've looked after me. I mean, I'll give you an example. I was walking, and I was out in the middle of nowhere, and I had nothing. And I wrote this down a long time ago. 17 pence. I had no water, I had no money, no nothing, right? And it was the driest time I've ever seen in Scotland. And I'm walking along this big main road carrying a massive rucksack. And I looked down, and there was 17p on the floor, and I picked it up. And as I got up the road about 2 miles more, I was really thirsty, really thirsty. There was a sign, and it said, Asda, water, 17p a bottle.
Really? It's nuts,
Now,
isn't it?
to most people, they would think, just coincidence. But to me, I don't see it as a coincidence. You know, I'm not asking for £1 million. I'm not worried about money. But what I'm asking for is what I need.
Yeah.
And I always get what I need, you know. I'm never without what I need, even in the worst of times. And yeah, I say thanks for watching over me.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good kind of mantra for life, mate, isn't it? Let's face it. I'll just flick this up here. This is about Scarborough, the sci-fi thing on it's Saturday and Sunday. I think it starts at 11. What time are you on in Scarborough? Well, I don't know, to be honest with you, but we're going to be there both days, and they've given us a room, fairly big room, I'm told. They're calling it the evidence room, but I didn't name it that, but that's what they're calling it. So, see us there. There'll be myself, Ian, Ian from the Two Guys What's Up podcast, which is Ian and Jordan and James Coppett. And yeah, we'll be answering questions as best we can. You guys will probably have more answers than us. And it just should be a good couple of days, really. So, yeah, and we'll see how it goes. Let's just see what we've got here. Are you okay for 5 minutes, Michael?
Yeah, of course I am.
Yeah. Yes, was in. Oh, this just. Let's. This is about our spelling. This Patrick says, if any consolation, Paul W. Yeats was an atrocious speller. Yeah. Do you know? The thing is, it don't matter with spell check, does it? I mean, everything's kind of falls into place. Everything I know that's written in the books has come out of my head, and spell checks are a wonderful thing. So I always, when I was at school, you know, Michael, I don't know about you, but I were poor at most things. I really were, you know. But writing,
I was terrible at it.
Yeah,
terrible at writing. I was in the special bit till I was about the end of junior school, and then all of a sudden I excelled.
Yeah.
But then I didn't want to be in the classroom. I wanted to be out. I didn't want to sit in the class because what they were telling me, to me, didn't make sense. Once I'd learned maths and the basis of English and history, and then they started repeating it all, I was thinking, why are they telling me it again? You know, I had no interest in that. I wanted to be out. I wanted to be observing nature. I wanted to see life.
Yeah. Well, there's not wrong with that. I mean, I was good at English. Not necessarily the spelling, but creative writing and that. I were good at that. That's about the only thing I were good at. But and winding people up. I've always been pretty good at that. But, so yeah, let's have a look, Benjamin. I totally understand what you're thinking alone, but you're not. Yeah, thank you. We'll just run through these as a few of these, if that's okay. Right. Linda says, Mike, are you fearful of any future encounters, or are you accepting of them all now?
Now it's like I'm 99.9%. I don't worry about it at all in that way. I would round it off and say, but I'll leave it for another time. So, Paul, you know, there's always another time.
I'd love you to come back on, because there's so many things that we've not touched
much stuff.
on.
We can't. It's just impossible. I mean, it's 50 years of experience, and you try to cram it into a little segment. I'll give you some highlights, but there's lots more highlights. And
I mean, like, Mike has been an excellent guest tonight. 2 hours gone so fast, and you're spot on 55. I know it's treble 5, but 55 is easier to say. Let's have a look. We'll keep going down. Paul Sinclair, advertising time. I think we've done it, Lee. We've talked about the books. We've said it before. Like and subscribe. And, you know, it's totally free for anybody that doesn't think it is. And, yeah, just give us a bit of support on channel. I've gone down all questions, Mike. So is there anything else you want to touch on before we kind of wind this down?
Well,
what are your plans for future? Have you any plans to write a book?
I've had plans to write. Yeah, I have had plans to write a book, and I've had plans to do things. But the thing is, Paul, I'm not a natural writer. I'm an artist in good at drawing and stuff and visualizing. So I started going into the thing of making small segments of movie, and I'm using some of the tools that we got at the minute. I don't like using AI, but it's a useful thing in I can get things done in a very short time.
Yeah.
And I'm trying a little bit with that, but I would like to write a book, because a book is a bit more, you know, something hands-on, and I'd like to make I don't know, a documentary sort of movie of stuff, right?
Of your experiences?
Of my experiences from birth to thingy, because every person I've spoke to is telling me to do it for the last, like, I don't know, 30, 40 years. Should write a book, should make a movie. Why don't you make a movie now? And I'm like, because that's not me. And I've always shunned all that, not because I didn't want it to be. But over time, I started thinking, oh, maybe I could do that, because it'd be good, you know, in some ways. And I started realizing it doesn't have to be about, like, you know, profit and massive amounts of publicity. Those that want to see this sort of thing are actually in you know, there's a large amount, but it's, you know, the scale of people, it's not the world's population, But the
No.
people that are interested, it's a genuine thing for them. And some of them are people like me and you. Who
Do
want
you know?
to,
Do you know, Mike? It's a good time to say this because you've told us lots tonight. You absolutely loads tonight, and I know there's loads more that you could tell us. But for anybody listening and thinking, God, Mike, this guy's got loads and loads to say, you don't. You normally you're quite private, aren't you?
I keep myself to myself, and I wish everyone a grand rising in the morning, you know. And I do my little things. I'm quite a private person. But the thing is, equally, when I'm with people, when they ask me questions, I'll answer questions. And I'm going to answer questions when people throw questions at me off my head without knowing, you know. That's one of the things that's come out of this is I have this knowledge, but I don't know where half it comes from.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. So a question from me then. If you could experience then, because we've got about 5 minutes, you don't have to fill it in with 5 minutes. You can do it in 10 seconds. If you could experience one aspect of unexplained phenomena and you got control over it, what would it be?
It would be, for me personally, it would be able to communicate with one of these beings and know exactly why all my life they've been intervening or doing what they've been doing and what their goal is with it. Because that's a question that I want answering. You know, that's my question. That's my question. That's what I'd like to know. It's an itch that I can't scratch.
Yeah, absolutely. And I asked it because that's probably what I'd be wanting. Do you know? So it is fascinating, isn't it? And we've got this one as well, Mike. Let's just throw this up there. Mike, would Mike consider his paranormal abilities make him a person of special interest to these entities? We kind of covered that, but you touch on it again if you want.
Well, it's not that I've got special abilities. We've all got. I've got a special ability. We've all got these abilities. Some of them are dormant in us, but once you access that, then you access it. But you have. Whether you're going to have full control over it, that's another thing. I don't have control over what I see. Sometimes I see terrible things, and I see good things. But you know, I don't have any control over it. I can't make it happen.
No. But it seems like everybody's enjoyed listening to you. Fantastic show tonight. Stay well, Truth Troopers. Well, thank you, Linda. And you just run down here. Right, what's this? If you don't, Mike, once you've gone, it's lost. As you're not there and about documenting your experiences.
Yeah, I get it.
And it's easy. It's like time. I mean, I don't have enough time in day to do what I want to do. I'll be honest with you, because I'd
be speeding up, Paul.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah, and there's a guy. I'll put this up because it's not in capitals, but John Paul has. This is a bloke you want to meet because I've met John and incredible experiences. Another one, incredible experiences, and I've put it up deliberately because I'd like to get him on here talking. I've spoke to him. We've spent some time together, and it blow you away some of the stuff that this guy's seen and experienced. Because as much as Mike spoke about it, as much as I gas on about it and talk about that night, people, there's people out there sat in silence, aren't they? You know?
Yeah, they are, unfortunately. I mean, when I first spoke to you, I said, I don't know about coming out. That's how long has it took me?
About 9 years, 8 to 9 years. But
9 years in August.
Yeah, absolutely. So absolutely brilliant, Mike. And do you know something? I think we could wind it up at that, mate, because I've really enjoyed speaking to you.
I would ask a question, Paul.
Please do, yeah.
Question. You've got your this thing happening Saturday and Sunday in Scarborough. Where is it? What's it cost?
It's at the Spa. It's at the Spa in Scarborough.
That's
do you know,
a big
Mike?
hotel, isn't it?
I sound ever so vague, don't I? I don't know. It's at the Spa. We're going to have a run to it, me and Linny, on Friday. It'll be a big venue in it, Spa in Scarborough, I would think.
Yeah, it's a big place.
And I must admit, guys do a great show or a great sci-fi conference, if that's the word for it. They've done it for years, and one of them knows.
Yeah, I'd like to come along myself. I'll come along and.
Brilliant. Okay, well, I'll speak to you after about it and give you a few more details. I'm terrible, aren't I? I think Linny knows more about
it. Get it out to the people here because some of them will want to come, no doubt, and they won't know.
we've done it every week, and as I say, it's this Saturday at the Spa, Saturday and Sunday. I think it starts at 11, goes on till at 5 o'clock Saturday, 4 o'clock Sunday. A lot of sci-fi. It's basically it's a sci-fi event, but for first time this year, they're including. Oh, you got a load of sci-fi gear.
All you can see behind you is like there's lots of other stuff, but there's lots of sci-fi stuff there.
So it'd be right up your street then, Michael, won't it?
I like sci-fi because as a kid, the only things I could relate to that I understood was Greek myths, right, and the Jedi in Star Wars. That I could relate to them things.
Right. Sci-fi. I don't know why. It's just never really. I don't watch much TV anyway, so that's probably part of the reason. I'll find some more details on it, guys. But Saturday and Sunday this week at the Spa in Scarborough, and just get yourselves along. There's a lot of people contacted me to say that they're interested in coming, so it should be good. It's a first for these guys, actually involving people from, I don't know, the UFO type community and the cryptid world, should we say, because most of it is, well, it's all based sci-fi. But I think it'll go down well. I think that audience will be interested in what we've got to say as well.
Well, the cryptid sightings and the big cat sightings, I can confirm this. I'll tell you a little quick story that some of you might be interested in. When I was up, I used to have a camp at Pinching Fault, funny enough, where I used to train people doing bushcraft and survival and primitive technology stuff, and just friends and that. You go up there, and one day I saw a deer carcass in the tree, and I thought, hang on a minute, the deer carcass in a tree. And then I had a look and I saw footprints. So after a few inquiries with people, there had been sightings of big cats, right? And landowners, a lot of landowners don't want the publicity. Because a lot of these places, people come, and in the past, some of them would have owned big cats.
Yeah.
And they've been released and they'll be liable.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons why you get a lot of hush up on it. So they don't want the publicity, and a lot of these people, you know, people who had big cats generally weren't the people who lived in council estate houses, were they?
No, they'd have had a bit of room and I get it. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah. So that's altogether another story for next time. So you're going to come back. Yes, I mind, you know, whenever. Yeah. No, don't mean next week, Mike, but definitely we'd love to hear you again. I surely know that. Yeah, I'm saying. Okay, then, Mike. What I'm gonna do for now then is say thank you very much, and from the rest of people listening, thanks for support, guys, and we'll see you next week. Bye bye. Bye bye. Is this an adventure or what? We don't need. Unexplained phenomena. I hope you guys are enjoying this journey we're taking you on. I know you come expecting to hear about big cats, cryptids, UFOs. We will touch on some of that, but I think it's worth sharing some of this for you, don't you? There's only 2 living souls up here today.
Because I can see it in my mind, I can see it in my head what I saw, but I can't describe.
Our eyes was closed, like a brightish light in my face, and I just felt paralysed.
Someone said there's something out there, so we had a look. It looked like a walnut. That's the only way I can describe it.
It was like it had loads of tiny little windows all over it, and it had lights in those windows, but not a light that illuminates.
Anyway, we were ushered into this lounge. This fella came in and said, whatever you saw was a weather effect.
And everything is deathly silent. There's no sea, there's no wind, there's no night noise, because, you know, there's foxes all over here. There's nothing.